going live. There we go. So, all right. All right, we're live, everybody. Just gonna give it a minute to see if anyone else joins. Roni's back. You were in the last session, Roni. Fantastic. All right, you're gonna. So I think what this presenter now is going to tell you about might be interesting for you, and you might find some inspiration there. Okay, who else we got in the room? We've got Ben Loveridge. Wonderful. Looking forward to your the music art or singing art presentation you're going to bring to us. Fantastic. Who else we got? We got Martin. Pleased to meet you, Martin. And Vive DM. This sounds like somebody from Vive. That would be cool. Seneral, lovely. All right, who we got at the back there? We have someone else. Then we've got Ashima. Oh, Ashima Thomas from Asia Pacific, the Asia Pacific VR Association. Wonderful. Nice you could make it. That's really cool. Thank you. We have Ralph. All right. All right, let's have some emojis. How are you guys feeling? You feeling good? You enjoying the conference so far? You feeling inspired? Have you heard something that you were not expecting? Give me some smileys if you heard something where you really thought, wow, that's cool. Because I've had that in almost every presentation. All right, wonderful. Give me some claps, please, if you've been to one of the other platforms, either Rumi or Engage or Mozilla Hubs. Not yet? Okay, there's some more events coming there. Keep a lookout on the schedule. If you can go to one of the Engage events, I highly recommend it. And of course, Mozilla Hubs runs on web. That's amazing as well. Keep a lookout for that. We have so many more amazing talks to come. And I tell you guys, I am knackered. I had 2.5 hours sleep last night. So I'm really crawling. But this stuff is keeping me awake because I just can't miss it. This is such a monumental event to bring so many different industries together. We have grassroots educators, we have developers, we have app builders, we have the industry leaders. We had the panel from the VR ARA, we had HTC Vive, we had Tom Furness, we have the Immersive Learning Research Network, we have educators in VR. We have pretty much everybody's eyeballs on this event at the moment. And I'm so proud to be a part of this community where we can showcase where we're at with VR, how far we've come with VR in education, and where we want to go, because I want this. My vision is for this technology to completely democratize education. That means that any school anywhere would be able to plug in. And we are going to be announcing a fund where some of our profits and sponsorships will be going towards sponsoring and supporting communities that are struggling. So we will be sending them equipment, we will be giving them training, and we will be hooking them up with some data, hopefully via satellite link. That's a project we're really passionate about. Keep a lookout for that. And why not? Why not? We have so much more to do with this technology. This is where we're at. And having said all that, Rohit, I'm going to hand over to you. Rohit here is going to talk to us about his work with students, makers, and hackathons, I think. Rohit, thank you so much for coming. Big love for Rohit, everybody. And then I'll hand over and I will be quiet. All yours, Rohit.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much.
Can everybody hear him okay?
He's a little quiet.
Yeah. Rohit,
Is it
there
better
are
now?
two things you can do. On the bottom right, you can click megaphone, amplify my voice. And on the top left, you can increase your volume. So please make sure you've amplified your voice. You have to click the host tools.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me now.
That's good.
Yeah? Lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, take it away.
You might want to mute all the audience mics. Everyone.
Oh, by the way, Rohit, I should check. Are your slides working? Who's got the slides in here?
I brought it up from my browser, but if somebody else wants to control it, that would be great.
No, are you able to change the slides? Is it working for you? Can you test it quickly?
Should be able to, but I might have to.
Maybe if you want to come. Oh, well, that looks good. Oh, wonderful. This is working well. Fantastic. And you're looking good there. Okay, sorry. Yes, over to you. Rohit, take it away.
The magic of technology. Make it big.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know everybody is all over the world for this, and that's the amazing part of this kind of conference or a summit, being truly international in that sense. My name is Rohit Chaube. I run a program called VR Rocks. It's a virtual reality and augmented reality software development program for high school students. We focus on high school students, bring them the tools and technologies that are needed from a VR/AR perspective, and get them going by solving some real world problems. Why do we do this? Why do we bring VR/AR? My talk is all going to be about this. And hopefully I'll be able to answer some questions. And if you know a school, or if your town, city wants to be part of it, want to do one of these events, want to bring one of these VR/AR events, do let us know, and we will be more than happy to work with you. So, this is just myself and my partner. It's better to introduce the team upfront. So myself, as I already mentioned, my name, I am a software developer by profession. I work within the space of bringing enterprise software to large companies, installing them, configuring them, so on and so forth. I have been associated with education for quite some time. I have been a junior achievement volunteer. I don't know if you're familiar with Junior Achievement. It's one of those organizations over here in the United States. And again, maybe my lack of knowledge, it might be international too, where they bring in professionals into the classroom, and professionals get to share some of their knowledge and work with the students. So I've been a junior achievement volunteer for quite some time. I've taught students about personal finance, entrepreneurship, business, international market, those kind of things. Something which are pretty complex but have real world applications. So I do that. Got hooked up to VR/AR quite some time back, and since then I have been in love with this technology. My partner Joel Stevens, he has been the most instrumental person for getting me VR/AR, hooked up to VR/AR. Joel has been a software developer for about 20 plus years. He got started with VR/AR pretty early, and since then he and I have been cooking up some weird ideas and bringing it forth to other folks to try out with VR/AR. The reason why we started what we do, or why we have been working towards this, one of the things which we noticed, being in the software world, this landscape is pretty vast, and year over year software development has changed, it has evolved. If you look up for any job category or career option, software development comes in probably in the top 3, if not the number 1 option. And this is going to change. This is going to grow. I mean, there are going to be new technologies coming in, new jobs coming in, and there will always be something over there. Right now, the number 1 job is a mobile app developer. But if you look back a decade ago, how many people or how many schools were doing mobile app development in their classrooms? Whether you are looking, sorry about that, oops. So if you're looking at from a mobile app development perspective, how many schools or even colleges were working on this? And this has been the case quite a bit with software development. Software development changes quite frequently. In my career of 13 years, I've seen at least 3 changes happening, from big enterprise software to mobile to now being in the cloud. And the rate of change has increased tremendously. We don't know if students get exposure to this, they get a chance to work on this. It just is quite difficult. And if you look at some of the career options for the future jobs, you have VR, AR, AI, blockchain, genomics. I mean, how many schools are exploring this? This is a very famous slide deck that I see. The thing is, I cannot control the slides if I turn around. So can somebody take over the slides, then I should be able to.
Just a second.
Just a second. I think I'm stuck behind.
Oh, are you?
Yes,
you are.
yes. Oh, there is a space behind this too.
Yes, you are stuck behind. Can you get forward?
I am trying to. 1 second.
Okay. If you're really stuck, you could re-enter the space.
Okay. I think I might have to do that. Yeah, give me a second. I'll come back in again. And if somebody can control the slides, that would be really helpful for me.
And maybe I'll do a tap dance while waiting.
Thank you for taking control over there.
Make sure you've got your megaphone back on.
Yes, I should be.
That's it.
Okay. Can you bring up the slides, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I can't see the controls, so if you could continue doing it, if possible.
Okay, let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In your apartment to try and stave off eviction. In the end, usually in the VR application, that doesn't work. And so you move to stage 2 of this experience. In stage 2, you're plopped inside your car. It's very visceral. You can look around and you can see garbage from food you've eaten. You can look behind you in your car and you see some of your clothes and they're dirty, they haven't been washed. And then a policeman walks up to you, knocks on the side of the window, again, a bit startling. He kicks you out because you can't live in your car on the street. And you're teleported to scene 3. In scene 3, you're on a bus. And all you have is this backpack. That's it. Those are your belongings, this small little backpack on the bus. There are other people on the bus. You can hear their story. And then there's a man behind you, and he comes up and he tries to take your backpack. Again, the whole idea behind this experience is to understand that our identity in life isn't necessarily something that we can take fault for, just like homeless people. Next slide, please. So, if we want kids to embrace learning, if we want them to know, truly know their learning, Joe Bowler, again out of Stanford, you'd think they paid me for this talk, talked a lot about kids need to learn to make mistakes. And by making mistakes, we call it the learning cycle, they can come back and figure out, where did I go wrong? And what more, or what a great tool, VR, to do that. Next slide, please. I absolutely love this conceptual, off-the-shelf, already developed VR application called Fantastic Contraptions. It's used a lot in STEM classes. And again, why is it so amazing to most teachers in schools is that kids have to learn the big idea or the concept of adaptation. They're given wheels, they have to make this little jelly ball, roll to a jelly wall. But their ability to make mistakes, to expose themselves to failure, to try again, that's one of the superpowers of VR. No cleanup, no duct tape, no mess. Where do I store the kids' projects? In VR, these aren't questions you need to worry about. Next slide, please. We also heard of this one if you were at the educational forum sponsored by the AR/VR Association. You saw Gadgeteer. Gadgeteer, again, is another amazing conceptual application because it's getting kids to, like Rube Goldberg machines, to break down complex machines into its little parts. And there's a sandbox mode, so kids can play around and muck around a bit. Next slide, please. Even storytelling and narrative can be repeatable, which means students can go in more than once to tap in or adjust their thinking through the learning cycle. So Firebird La Paris, when you expose yourself to this story, you have this agency that you can't do in a movie. Okay, movies and videos and even books are often linear, whereas Firebird La Paris, you have a bit of control over the outcome of the story. So you could come into the story with a different lens or perspective. Again, getting kids to struggle with ideas, talk about and think conceptually. Next slide, please. So what we've done and worked a lot on is to try and come up with our first VR content bundle. But the content bundle isn't around necessarily, or the most important thing isn't the subject. You'll see in the center, it's about identity. So we took this theme of identity and we crafted, through strong relationships with content creators, a bundle where students are exposed to 2 or 3 experiences through music lesson guides, 2 or 3 experiences in social studies, and so on, to get this really powerful holistic experience that builds on the concept of identity. Next slide, please. Then, coupled with that, we did some work with a couple universities to craft lesson guides. Lesson plans aren't new by any means, but lesson plans or lesson guides for VR, there's not a lot out there yet. Next slide, please. Most lesson plans in education mean that you're crafting an experience to take a student from point A to point B, almost like that Google map that you see up there. Next slide, please. However, we believe that a good VR lesson guide is more like, it's like a treasure map. Because we're asking kids inside a VR application to think big, think conceptually, we're going to get them to where they need to go. X marks the spot. But the path that they take is going to be windy and twisted. They might have to come back into a VR application more than once to really get the full sort of what did I really need to get out of that? As opposed to if we focus the VR application on something trivial or just content, that's a very linear experience that might be just one and done. Okay. Well, Mr. Frehlich, I've already tried that VR application. I don't need to go into it again. Whereas if we pick something loftier and force them to think loftier, then they really can ruminate on these VR experiences. Next slide, please. So here's some sort of nuts and bolts that we believe a good VR lesson guide might have. We love Keep Talking and No One Explodes. I do workshops for the International Baccalaureate Organization, and I use it as an amazing tool to teach teachers how to expose their students to better communication skills. Because I think schools are starting to embrace the soft curriculum. As I said before, there's an amazing shift happening in many schools. And that shift is, we don't need to fill the curriculum just with facts. Okay? We need to start to give them some facts, but let's get them to see how bigger ideas fit into this and expose them to soft skills. We're living in we call it a gig economy. So a gig economy, if you don't know, means that students are going to have probably more than one job. Not like our parents or maybe us where we're in the same profession for a long period of time. So they need to have, arguably overused, but 21st century skills like improved communication. So Keep Talking and No One Explodes does that. Next slide, please. So once we've mapped the big idea, which might be, as you see here, some inquiry statement that tells the kids, here's the big thing you're going to walk away with. Once we've done that, then our next step, next slide, please, is to outline the goal. And the goal should be, how does this fit to real life? If you're going to go into VR, just so you know, the big picture here, the real life authentic connection is yada, yada, yada. Next slide, please. And then there's going to be, of course, some vocabulary, hopefully some key concepts. They might define it, again, before they go into VR. We're going to have learning objectives. Next slide, please. It might look something like this. I'm not going to read this out. In fact, I realize it's a bit text heavy. I just sort of showed you a quick example. One thing, though, about the learning objectives is they're very broad. Okay? Most good conceptual learning experiences are broad. Next slide, please. So we still, just to set the stage, we still haven't put headsets on kids yet. We're just prepping them. Okay? We're putting on the primer, if you will. So we might get them to think about some factual questions before they go into a VR. We might give them some other bigger conceptual questions to think about. They could do this in groups. And then maybe some real life questions. Next slide, please. So here's an example. If I was to deliver Keep Talking and No One Explodes to my students, I might ask them questions like, what are some important factors to consider for two-way communication? And then why, when you're under stress, why is it difficult to communicate? Just in case you don't know how Keep Talking and No One Explodes, a person puts on a headset and in front of them is a bomb with wires and buttons. People outside the VR have a manual. So the student with the VR headset has to communicate to the student outside VR. What do you see? Oh, I see 2 wires. Oh, let me check the manual. So it's a great communication game or activity. Next slide, please. So we're almost ready. It's almost like this crescendo. We still haven't necessarily put a headset on a kid yet. We might also outline, how long do we want them to go in? My rule of thumb, I try and keep it to 20 minutes. What are some tutorial information that they need to worry about? And then maybe there's important concepts that they need to apply when they're in the VR application. Next slide, please. Then they put on their headset, they do set experience. Once they're done, when they come out, they're dying to think about and talk about what just happened. So we want to have questions for discussion or individual about what just happened. We want them to reflect on the amazing, awe-inspiring experience. So we could ask things like, what was successful in there? Or what were some challenges? We could get them to debate the homelessness issue if it was using the Stanford one. Then we might extend their learning with other connections. Are there documentaries they could watch or other applications in VR? Next slide, please. I love this one. Again, when I first do a talk like this, especially to people who aren't educators, it takes me a bit of convincing that they see the value of something like Baby Hands VR. So Baby Hands VR, you basically put on the headset and you're from the point of view of a baby. You crawl around this house, you can prop yourself up on a couch, and you can, this is the beautiful part of it, you can get into trouble. The house isn't necessarily baby-proof. So, you can go into the bathroom and turn on the water. And our high school psychology department use Baby Hands VR all the time because it gets people to think from the point of view and perspective, well, first, of course, of a baby, but then, especially because they're teenagers, adults. And it has rich discussion after the kids try Baby Hands VR. Next slide, please. Same with the Blue. So the Blue is an underwater sort of marine VR application. So you could put kids in the Blue and they might get out of it what marine life looks like. Oh, that's what a whale looks like. Or I've never seen stingrays before. And that's powerful. But what if we shift to a more conceptual approach and we get them to look at, could VR be used instead of real physical ecotourism? I'm originally from Canada, and I have a friend that lives in Vancouver and Victoria, in that part of Canada, and there's always on the news something about, conflict between whales and boats and people. Next slide, please. Same with Masterpiece VR. I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to skip this. Next slide, please. I talked about this before. Schools are warming up to the idea that they need to use time, valuable time, to teach kids soft skills, teamwork skills, for example. So what if we started crafting bundles for educators that were soft skill bundles? If we did that, one that I would put at the top of my list might be these three applications. I've already talked about Keep Talking and No One Explodes, but another one that the students that I've seen at several schools love is Akron. Akron, one person puts the headset on and they're this giant tree. Everybody else outside of the VR gets to use their phone. And on an app, they can be a squirrel. So the squirrels, you can have up to 9, have to try and steal the acorns from the tree, almost like a modern day kick the can. And what happens is you let students play Akron serendipitously once, and they start already instinctively teaming up. Because you can be a different kind of squirrel. There's 4 different kinds of squirrels. So it's magical to watch the kids say, wait a minute, let's get a strategy going here. Or you force them to pick a particular leadership style, and then how successful can they be at getting all those acorns from the tree if they have this sort of leadership style ability to them. And then Black Hat Cooperative, same idea. What happens is someone in the headset has this sort of spy maze with a bunch of rooms, and someone outside the headset has control over more visibility. Like there are laser beams that the person in the headset can't see. There are robots. So you have to walk the person verbally through the maze and rooms, almost like a helper. So this would be a great bundle to offer to schools about cooperation, communication, teamwork. Next slide, please. If we think back to the caveman days, when the cavemen first actually discovered fire, not only did they get more protein, but the other thing that fire, a tool, a really technological tool back then, gave to the caveman was it sparked more curiosity. And here's why. With fire, cavemen could travel further because they could go at night. They could actually go into caves and discover new things. So the tool fire back in the caveman days inspired them to think bigger, to explore, to learn, arguably to learn more. And it's my belief that VR in today's day and age is like that tool. Next slide, please. So I want to end on this slide. We know the kids that are coming to our schools grow up on devices. You've probably heard of the term digital natives. Digital natives means that because they grow up on devices, they're used to things like differentiation. They're used to things like on-demand feedback. They're used to working as a group. It's this sort of way of life for them. And I believe that VR can help sort of fill that need for them as digital natives. So, last slide, please. Is there one more slide or no? Should be a question slide. There we go. So, thanks for listening to my my look at trying to take VR and really stretch kids' understanding and using it for what I really believe it's most powerful for. I call it superpowers. And so I'd like to leave the floor open for questions in case you have any, but it's so funny when it was 6:59 and there was maybe 2 people in the room, I was like, oh my gosh, no one's gonna show up to my session. But so thanks for coming. I'll open the mic up for questions. Can I? I hope I can.
You sure can. I have that open right now. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and click the raised hand button, in the lower corner there, and we'll get you on the queue to ask your question. Alrighty, let's see if any questions are coming. Any questions out there? If you guys have any questions, go ahead and click the raise hand button, and we will get you on the queue to ask your question. In the meantime, let's give a round of applause. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I got some names and some experiences to check out, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for saying so.
All right, don't be shy out there. Any questions? Okay, let's look like we've got a couple coming through. This is great. All right, let's see. We've got Steven. Steven, you have the microphone.
I haven't really got a question, but your voice has gone really soft.
My voice?
No, the other voice.
Okay, let me go on megaphone. There we go. I'm on megaphone
There you
now.
go.
Is that better?
That's it's better.
Excellent. All right. Any questions? Let's
No.
see here. All right. Thank you for letting us know. All right. All right. So then, other than what you've presented to us in terms of the different experiences, are there any others that you've found that have been very good that help communicate and team building skills?
Not off the top of my head. Maybe other people know of some out there. Anybody else, have a favorite either team building VR application or possibly one that you feel is incredibly powerful conceptually?
Let's see here. We got Philip. Go ahead. You have the microphone.
Yeah, I've used. Hi, I'm Philip Williams. I work at an international school. I'm a librarian, and I'll be presenting tomorrow using Roblox Studio with students, and I found that to be a very powerful tool with kids because it's very similar to Unity. You can build anything you want in there, so it's been a great tool and because the kids are already using Roblox, they just haven't really known about the developer side of it. And once they start to get into this idea that they can become developers, it's a very powerful platform to use. So I think for the things that you've been talking about, conceptual understandings and the real openness of Roblox Studio is its real power, because you can do anything in there that you want.
And your tomorrow, when is that again, Philip?
That's a good question. I want to say it's 8 p.m. tomorrow, Pacific time. That'll be 11 a.m. for me.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Philip. Anybody else with any questions, go ahead and click that raise hand button. You'll see that in the lower corner there, and we'll get you on the queue to answer your question.
Or even something to share that you think fits.
Yeah. Another one I really like, when we were talking about the blue, I like Ocean Rift. Have you tried Ocean Rift?
I haven't tried that. Is that ocean acidification or literally ocean rift?
Yeah, Ocean Rift, O-C-E-A-N,
Okay.
Rift. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it's very educational, and you get to interact with even more marine life, which is pretty awesome.
I had another one, again, lots of social studies teachers will use something called cave diggers. So, you might talk about what it's like to live in a mining town, or you might sort of debate whether mining, from an environmental perspective versus an economic perspective. Well, cave digger gets the user to experience what it's like to be a miner, but in a gamified way. So in Cave Digger, you literally go down the mine shaft, and then there's some geology in there. You have to sort of hammer away. You have different kinds of hammers. There are gems, but other rocks, and so some rocks which are harder, you have to swing harder to try and get and unlock either the gem or valuable mineral out of the rock, and then you have to try and get it up the elevator. If you have too much weight, the elevator won't go up. So again, a neat conceptual experience that gets kids to sort of see what it's like, the life of being a miner, cave digger.
Cool. All right. Well, it looks like the queue is empty at the moment with questions or comments. We can go ahead and unmute. Well, we've got a question coming in. Let's see here. That's it. Don't be shy. All right. Is this Syrian? Is that how you say your name? You have the microphone.
Hello, I'm Syrian from Norway. I work with getting people out jobs, and we do some career talks and so on. Can you advise some good job simulator programs, apps?
Mm, not off the top of my head. I'm working with a company called PNX Labs. So PNX Labs, I think they're out of Mexico, and he is hoping with our help to craft job-related experiences that require you to use mathematical thinking or scientific thinking. So, for example, one of the apps is that more for high school, but you have to learn pressure, but then you're plopped inside an industrial setting and you have all these conveyor belts. So the conveyor belts don't work. You have to walk up to the conveyor belt and you have to, you push a few buttons and you look at the pistons and you have to use grade 11 or 12 math to try and get the pistons to work so that they have the right pressure to make the conveyor belts. So kind of like what you're talking about, I guess.
Also, there is VR Job Simulator. I don't know if you've checked that out. I have never used that, but I hear that's pretty remarkable as well.
Well, I experienced that you have to kind of Google a lot of different kind of apps where you can maybe find a job that you can use as a simulator. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actual game or experience called VR Job Simulator as well, which I think is one of the earlier VR experiences that a lot of people rave about. Anybody try VR Job Simulator out there?
Yeah, it's very good.
Oh, cool. Okay. Sign them emojis if you love it. Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. Cool. Yeah, and I'm starting to see more and more VR and mobile, meaning that somebody's in VR and then other people are on their mobile device, like you were saying earlier, sort of giving direction, trying to help them out, figure things out with only information they have, and the person in the VR headset relying on them in order to navigate to solve the issue, which is pretty awesome. More of those are popping up.
And the beauty of that is that you can get more kids involved. I know for schools, I doubt any school out there has a one-to-one headset to students. So many of us have only a few. So if you look at it's called asymmetrical gaming, it's called asymmetrical. If you Google search asymmetrical applications or gaming, like Akron, for example, you can get 10 people involved at one time, which then helps sort of minimize kids sort of waiting to get involved or lean into the game, so to speak.
Excellent. Well, once again, let's give a round of applause. Beautiful job.
Thank you.
You're a very great speaker, actually. I love your cadence. And you're very inviting. Yes.
Thanks for saying so. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Great. Well, have a great conference, everyone. Hope to see you around.
All right, everybody's unmuted. If you'd like, go ahead and mingle. You're welcome to do that. You can also check your menu. Go into the events tab, and you're going to see the different events that are going on. And I am hearing myself through somebody. So go ahead and use headphones, please. Yeah. Ectorina again. All right. She's been muted. All right. There we go. Everybody else, you've been unmuted, so you can go ahead and mix and mingle.
Did you?
There's like two people standing here.
Hello. Did you talk about Job Simulator? What?
Ah, you're the one that's muted.
Oh, you were not the one who were talking about job.
I didn't talk about jobs or anything.
Well done. Just want to say again, very good job. Great presentation. Good job, Greg.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for your help moderating.
No problem. I appreciate also to speak to another Canadian, or at least someone who lived in Canada.
Where are you at now?
Just an hour outside of Toronto in Kitchener, Ontario.
Okay. So it's cold there right now?
Yes, actually, not not terribly cold. It's milder morning, but we just got a nice fresh layer of snow, and it's the perfect packing tape today.
Is this